Hello and welcome to Practically Effective. This is a podcast about effects, props and stunts in various films, and today Will and I are going to discuss the most amazing movie, Death Race 2000.
Our first listener recommendation.
Yes! After listening to our incredibly insightful Running Man episode,
Yep.
we've been...
Inundated with requests from around the world.
We've been inundated with a request. Yes. So, Death Race 2000. And this person clearly knows us very well, because we both really enjoyed it.
One of my favourite films.
I'm looking
It's
forward
up
to
there with The Running Man in terms of cinematic quality.
It's just like Blade Runner, Will, with all those deeper things.
It is, yeah. Like, you read these articles about it, and some of them take the political meanings really deeply, and they try and analyse it. Like, no, just stop. Just stop.
Yeah, so should we do a quick recap of the story and tell everyone? Because I imagine most
is there
people...
a story?
Well, Will, let me tell you the great tale of Death Race. The year is the year 2000, the deep, dark future, because this movie was made in 75.
Yeah.
And America is still the best country, but it's for entertainment on television. They watch Death Race, which is essentially a race.
I don't call it Death Race in the film. They call it the Transcontinental
Road Race.
Yeah, something like that.
And the aim is that you basically have to kill as many pedestrians as possible.
Well, I've never quite got the winning criteria because they mention in the film that someone could not finish first but still win on points.
Yes.
And it's never made clear how many points actually winning the race gets you. So how many points behind would you have to be to still lose even if you won?
Yeah.
Because you get points for killing people, and depending on the person, you get more points. Like
type of person.
An old person gets you 70 points, for example.
For some reason. Why is it better to kill old people and babies?
Well, it's like, like in ships and things, it's like, okay, it's never actually been this way, but it's like popularized through films.
Yep.
But like, it's always like, oh, you have to save the women first. And,
the women and children first.
So it's like that. So like,
but it's the opposite because you kill the women and children first.
Yeah. Let's not go into social commentary, but the life of women and children is perceived as higher than that of men in most societies.
But in this society, kill the old people.
Kill the old people and the babies, yeah.
Yep. So we have 5 colourful characters, Will, who participate in the death race. Oh, also there's
Can you remember all of them?
Yes.
Let's see, there's Calamity Jane.
Calamity Jane in a car that's shaped like a bull.
The German one. Matilda the Hun.
Matilda the Hun.
Yeah.
In her V1.
It kind of looked like a V1 styled car, yeah.
Her Nazi-mobile.
Nazi-mobile. Machine Gun Joe.
Yep, in his massive machete car.
I don't even remember what his car looked like.
It had a big knife on the front.
Oh yeah,
because he stabs
there was
people.
clearly still something I wanted to say was the cars are done really badly.
That's so rubbish. Right, should we run through the rest of the people?
Okay.
We had
then there's Frankenstein, who was like the main character
in his lizard-mobile.
Who for some reason is driving a lizard. Yeah.
So his thing is that he's been doing the race for all these years, and his body has been broken and shattered, and he's got replacement arms and replacement face and replacement legs, and he's like this Frankenstein creature, and every year they have to bring him back, like build him out of new parts.
Yeah.
And he drives a lizard.
He drives around a lizard.
Why wouldn't he drive like a hearse? Or like some kind of weird ambulance car? Or
who's the other? We've only got 4 of them.
Oh, the worst one. Nero the hero.
Oh yeah, he dies like straight away.
But he like pulls up and his navigator is just sitting in the car, and he's like, "No, I will stand up. My fans must see me."
So each of the drivers also has a navigator.
Yes.
Who's like very much second fiddle. And Nero, at the beginning of the race, they're like introducing all the drivers.
Yep.
And the navigator's like giving the fans a little wave. And Nero's like, "Get out of the way! My fans want to see me!"
Yeah, they all have a navigator of the opposite sex.
They do, yeah.
And I think they have to sleep with them or something.
It was kind of, yeah.
Because they have one bedroom when they stop up at the place.
Yeah, that's true, they do.
Anyway, that's just some weird thing in this film. So, sorry, you were saying about the cars?
Oh, yeah, how badly they're done. Yeah, Machine Gun Joe, his car. The knife at the front, like, you can tell that it's not actually made of metal. You can tell it's like wood. You can, like, see the brush strokes on it.
Yeah.
And there's like little, it's not even well painted. You can see like little blobs of paint. It's clearly just a painted piece of wood.
Yeah. His car also has 2 machine guns poking out the front of it, but he never shoots.
Uses them.
No.
And like the car bodies themselves just are made out of the most tacky. It looks like really tacky plastic. I don't know what it actually was.
It must have been something like that.
But it just looks really, really cheap and just naff.
Yeah. But like the most tuned into sport in all of America.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have much money to go around.
It's only like 3 days, isn't it?
3 days, yeah. From the East Coast to the West Coast to New Los Angeles.
Yeah, from New York to New Los Angeles.
Why is it New Los Angeles?
Because the old one fell off. It really fell into the sea.
It's never really detailed.
No, it's just because it's a dystopian future.
But they say what do they call, like the Great Crash or something?
Yeah.
Like the Great Market Crash, and somehow.
Oh, there's an economic thing.
Yeah.
We never get a sense of it.
No.
But I don't think the filmmakers were like, let's make a serious dystopian film about social commentary.
Some people try and take it seriously, but yeah.
It's no.
Who's your favourite driver?
Well, it's clearly Nero the hero.
His annoying crash.
And his death, they see a picnic under a tree.
Yeah.
And his navigator is, look, people!
And his navigator's like, go for the baby, go for the baby.
Yeah. So it turns out it's the Resistance who have dressed up. So the main man of the Resistance dresses up as the mother.
There were women in the Resistance,
Yeah.
but for some reason, to play the mother, they just dressed a guy up as a woman rather than using an actual woman.
It's what they wouldn't expect.
They're setting up this little picnic, and they have a little baby, but it turns out to be a doll. There's a bomb. So when Nero goes driving towards them, they all run off. Apparently Nero doesn't think it's weird that they just left the baby.
It was that woman from Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. Just leaves her baby in a burning building.
Yeah.
And then there's Navigator very enthusiastically says, go for the baby!
And they drive up for the baby, and there's just an enormous fireball. But the Resistance, don't they all go and hide behind the tree?
They go and hide behind a nearby tree, which apparently didn't seem weird or suspicious.
No. I don't fully understand the Resistance plan. Because at the beginning, they'd all just sat in this massive empty warehouse watching television. And there's like this main woman of the Resistance. And that man who dresses up as a mum.
Yeah.
He's there, and he's like, we should go ahead with the exploding plan. And she's like, no, I don't want any of that. We're going to do this another way.
And then they explode them all anyway.
Yeah. There's a guy...
But, like, what? They're just in some factory or something.
Yep.
But I don't get it. Like, do they work at the factory? I don't quite understand, sort of...
Is it an abandoned factory because of the crash?
I don't get it. They're all wearing, like, workers' overalls as well.
It's very odd.
And there's a bit they hijack the television, much like in The Running Man.
They do. Oh my goodness.
They hijack the television signal, but only for like they give like a really short speech, and then that's it. Like halfway, it's not even like the end of the film. It's about like halfway through the film, they just hijack the TV signal.
They just kill Nero, didn't they? And then they hijack the TV.
Yeah, and they give like a very sort of naff speech, and then it's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, but the president, they tried to make out the president like he was like this Tyrell figure. Where he's just above everyone else, and very few people get to meet him, and he's this amazing person. But actually, he just looked like a moron in a smoky room.
He does.
Because he just stands in a room that's full of smoke and red light.
And apparently he governs the US from, like, China. No, his summer palace in China.
Yes.
I think it was China.
Yeah. For some reason they want to kill him. It's not really obvious what he did. No one ever says that he did anything wrong.
Well, the only bit that we get, because it's not really that clear that it's a dystopian society, really.
No.
Like, they never really... apart from the race itself.
Yeah.
That there's not really any knowledge of what actually goes on in regular society.
Yeah, it's not like in The Running Man where you get a bit of a sense of what's going on outside.
There's not like... They don't show you, like, police just mowing down civilians or whatever.
No.
The only bit you get is the president briefly mentions minority privilege, which I assume means that they make the majority of people suffer for the benefit of a few
wealthy.
highlights. But that's just, he literally just mentions that once in a speech.
Yeah. I'm calling same universe as The Running Man.
It could be.
I reckon, because Running Man's 2019,
Mm.
so that'd be after this.
Yeah.
Is that the natural progression for this universe?
I mean, we'll probably talk about the end later. And how...
Yes, we'll talk about the end later.
Okay, we'll talk... But basically, at the end, they try and present it as like everything is solved.
It's
but
all
it
fine.
clearly isn't.
No. So, let's talk about the beginning. Just how it starts.
I don't even remember. Is it that? Oh yeah, there's like all the. It starts off with them at the circuit.
Well, before
drivers
that,
are
I was
arriving.
like, before that, I was like, oh, maybe this will be a fairly serious film.
Yeah.
And then there's the bit where they bring Frankenstein out,
Yeah.
and he's like on a stretcher,
Yeah.
and all the reporters think he's dead.
Yeah.
And then the
Oh yeah. Like, oh
the doctor is like, don't worry, he's in a suspended animation. He'll be around any second. And then he just sits up.
No, but there's like. So they bring him out on the stretcher,
Yeah.
and the doctor says, "Don't worry," and then he like looked at his watch. He'll be up any second.
Yeah.
Like, well, why didn't you just bring him out like 30 seconds later once he's woken up?
Because he's had the best Swiss doctors working
Oh
on him,
yeah,
hasn't he?
Swiss doctors.
But anyway, they present Frankenstein. He's a man covered in leather from
Yeah.
head to foot.
He's a
black
BDSM
leather.
enthusiast, yeah.
And he has a mask with like 2 eye holes, and you can see this like burned, scarred flesh
On his
just
other eye.
around his eyes.
This is on his left eye.
Yeah, around an eye. And the reporters are like, Mr. Frankenstein, is it true that your robot arm can change gear in a tenth of a second?
Oh yeah.
And he's there and he's being very, very
Like
blunt
a tenth
with
of
them.
a second.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, I can change gear in a tenth of a second.
It depends whether they mean from steering wheel to gear stick to steering
Oh
wheel.
yeah, or just moving the.
Because he actually does everything at the rate of a normal human
He
being.
does.
Yeah. But anyway, then he goes out to his car and meets his navigator, who's an attractive young lady.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Oh, and there's the bit right at the beginning where Machine Gun Joe rocks up.
Yeah.
And so everyone else has arrived and they're all giving the crowd a wave, and then someone has come and like interviewed them, like, how do you think you're going to go in the race this year? And they're all like, yeah, we're going to win, it's going to be the best. And then Machine Gun Joe comes and no one comes to interview him. He just stands up in his car and just grabs a machine gun and shoots at the crowd. He's like, you want some of this?
But like, I'm not sure whether that was a real machine gun because they don't show anyone in the crowd like dying,
I want
getting shot.
Yeah.
So he's really angsty that people like Frankenstein more than he does.
Yeah, Machine Gun Joe is played by Sylvester Stallone, we should
Yeah.
mention.
Who at the time was really unknown.
Yeah, the only notable actor in this entire movie, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just real mad that everyone seems to like
Because
Frankenstein.
I think he used to be like the top dog,
Yeah,
and then Frankenstein came along and started winning all the races, and he's like really
yeah.
jealous.
My favourite bit of Joe Antics is when someone tells him to drive down this road and he gets to the end and there's just a guy sat on the end of the road which just falls off like a 10-foot drop and he's just sat there fishing.
And then, oh yeah,
And then
later on, they go into the river where he was fishing,
Yeah.
and it's clearly like an inch deep, and he was apparently fishing in this.
So he turns round and Machine Gun Joe is like, where am I? How do I get round? And the guy's like, oh, you can't get around here. You have to go all the way back to the main road. Anyway, I'm your biggest fan, Frankenstein.
Because they look so similar.
Because Machine Gun Joe just looks like a young Sylvester Stallone, and Frankenstein's a man in head
Full
to toe
BDSM
leather.
gear, yeah.
And this guy, who's his biggest fan, doesn't know what he looks like. And then Machine...
Also, I'm sure the fishing guy says like he doesn't pay attention to the race or something.
Yeah, but then
And
he's
he's
like...
apparently Frankenstein's
his biggest
biggest fan.
But then Joe is like, I'm going to kill you for that. And he hops down into the river, and when he's running away, he still takes his fish with him.
Yeah, he does.
So he's running down the river with his 2 fish that he's caught.
You know what my favourite bit about Machine Gun Joe is?
Go on.
Is that, you know his name is like Joe the Turbo. That's like his nickname.
Yeah.
People call him. Did you notice that people call him Mr. the Turbo? Did you notice that?
I didn't.
Like a TV interview or something, and with a completely straight face, he goes, "So, Mr. the Turbo."
Should we talk about the 3 like main commentators?
Oh
Because
yeah.
there's some personalities, aren't they? So we have 3 TV person. You've had a biscuit, Kirsty. Biscuit break. A long missed segment of the podcast. The classic biscuit break has returned.
Yeah, there's like 3 commentators.
Mm-hmm.
The really excited guy. Then there's the woman who is everyone is her friend.
Yeah. So she'll be walking around interviewing people. And she'll be like, I was just speaking to my good friend, Mr. Frankenstein. Or my good friend. Does she call the president her friend at some point?
She does, yeah.
Everyone's her friend.
And then there's the guy who I said reminded me of Walter Cronkite.
Mm-hmm.
The very like professional guy who's taking it all very seriously.
He's been in the game for years.
Yes, he's like the grizzled veteran.
There's not much to say about them, really, is there? They just pop up through the movie and talk to people about things. Can't remember who the first person to die was. Was it that roadwork guy? The Matador guy?
Oh, the Matador guy.
Why?
Oh, yeah, I like how... So, in like actual like matadoring...
Yep.
the bull always goes for like the red cloth and the guy standing off to the side.
Yep.
I like how Calamity Jane, who is the guy the woman who is
driving the bull car,
rather than doing not what the bull does and just going for the guy,
run him over.
She still insists on going for the red cloth and then is confused when the guy doesn't die.
Oh, it's not like he dives out of the way.
Yeah, he literally just holds the cloth to the side and she just drives at the cloth and is then completely confused when the guy doesn't die.
She does it 5 times. But she gets him eventually, doesn't she?
Yeah, in the end.
I just think the first one is the roadworks guy, and he's there working right in the middle of a road.
Oh yeah, and
he's
got earplugs on or something.
Yeah. There's 4 of them, and 3 of his mates run away, but he doesn't notice. A Machine Gun Joe spears him through the jeans, and it's clearly just red paint spraying everywhere.
Oh yeah, so the blood effects are so bad.
Yeah. Oh dear, there was some grim deaths in this movie.
Should we talk about the pothole?
Oh, the manhole death.
Yes. Not the pothole death, the manhole death.
The manhole death is probably the most confusing of all the deaths.
But it's not just the death that's confusing, it's the whole
premise.
The whole scenario is confusing. There's 3 guys, and they're lined up across the road.
Yep.
They're just standing there waiting for, I think it's the Hun. And they see her coming in her car.
Yep.
And then they all jump down a manhole.
One at a time.
One at a time, really slowly. And once the first 2 have gone down, they close it.
This is a joke. And then the third guy...
The third guy really enthusiastically tries to jump down.
He jumps onto the manhole.
And he's like, damn it. And he gets run over.
But if the manhole hadn't been there, he would have just jumped and then fallen and broken both of his legs.
Down. But anyway, the Hun comes and kills him. And then the other 2 guys... So at this, the Hun is being chased by Calamity Jane, I think, at this point.
Because the sheep just run over
the Hun ran over Calamity Jane's navigator.
Yes, because he was doing something under the car, lying on the road like a moron.
So the Hun goes past, and the 2 guys who jump down the manhole open it up, and they're like, "Look at us, aren't we? Just the best guys! Look at our cunning plan." And then they're still under the manhole, looking out, peering out. And then Calamity Jane comes along, and I don't really understand what happens here.
I don't know.
But it's she runs over the manhole. And it's just I don't get it. I can't explain it.
I think she crushes them both. I think that's the idea.
But they're just peering out. There's not enough of them
to
kill them. Yeah,
they're mildly concussed under there.
Slightly concussed. They'd be shaken a little bit.
Yeah,
but they just explode in a shower of body parts. Most of which somehow ends up above the manhole, even though it was basically closed.
Yeah, it's baffling. The deal is you kind of get a story going in this movie, and then they'll just cut away, and it'll just be a man crossing the road, and then someone will run them over.
But the other thing with that bit is I don't get what were they like. oh, we'll line up to get run over and then jump down the manhole. Aren't we clever guys?
I
I
guess
don't
they
get
were,
what they were going for.
I guess they were trying to play some kind of like chicken game, see how like who would wait out the longest.
Oh, maybe.
And the guy in second was so bitter about losing, he just left his mate out there to be murdered.
But in that bit where the hunt is being chased by Calamity Jane, you know the bit I'm going to talk about?
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The bit with the tunnel.
Well, the Resistance have a cunning plan to stop the death race. They're just going to kill everyone in the death race.
Yep.
Including... So, Frankenstein's navigator turns out to be the granddaughter of the main
Of the
woman.
Resistance leader.
Yeah, in the Resistance. But they're just like, let's just kill everyone.
Yeah.
So they blow up a baby to kill Nero, the hero.
Yeah.
And then to kill the Hun,
Yeah.
they're going down a road with lots of tunnels. This is like Wile E. Coyote levels of stupid. So what they do is they put a big diversion sign in the middle of the road. And then they get like a massive cardboard bridge entrance. Put like some black cloth over it so it looks like you're going into a dark tunnel. And set it up on the edge of a cliff. So the Hun sees the diversion and is like, oh no, a diversion. Pulls a right, goes into the tunnel, and flies off a cliff. But here's the thing about tunnels, Will. Tunnels go
through a mountain.
They go into something. But this tunnel was just a big square.
Just a square. Like there's clearly nothing behind this tunnel.
Wouldn't you find it a little suspicious?
It's just this tunnel supposedly in the middle of nowhere. Also, it's clearly just like she's on the main road driving along and there's this diversion sign and she goes onto like some, like dirt track.
Yeah.
And then there's this tunnel there.
It's ridiculous. Oh dear, that might be my favourite death in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh dear, what a mess. So, okay, so the main thrust of the story is about Frankenstein and his navigator.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks that Frankenstein is this cold, heartless guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, they do the reveal of his face really early on, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Because he's like, he says this line, which is like, no one has ever seen my face except my navigators. As if he goes into all his surgeries with his mask still on.
Yeah.
But then he's like, well, I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to see his face like 80% of the way through the movie. And it'll be like a big reveal. And then he's like, would you like to see it? And then he just pulls it off, and it turns out underneath the mask, he's just quite a handsome man.
Just a regular guy, yeah.
Yeah, and the whole Frankenstein thing is just a ruse for some reason.
Well, they mention later on the government trains these guys, and the reason they have them wear the BDSM gear is because it's a different guy each year, or like every couple of years.
Which means all the others are dead.
Yeah,
and it's all just it's just like to intimidate the other drivers. Yes, but why? Why are the government doing this?
Well, it's like bread and circuses. It's like you give the people something, or some sort of mind-numbing entertainment to keep them busy.
Yeah.
And stop them focusing on...
Oh, the terror.
A piece of media that actually did it well is the book Brave New World.
Yeah?
It's the same sort of idea. Keep the populace happy and they won't notice your tyranny, sort of thing.
The other amazing example of that is, of course, The Running Man.
Of course, yeah, The Running Man.
So, yes, I can't remember where we were.
Oh, that's another thing. So we've gone completely off the topic of Frankenstein.
Sorry, don't worry about it.
In the trailer, there's a bit where I think it's Frankenstein, but I don't remember, but one of the drivers looks over to his navigator and he goes, "This is a death race." And you know how much we love it when they shoehorn in the name of the film.
It's one of my favourite things.
So when I watched the trailer, I thought, yes, I'm so looking forward to this. Any film that shoehorns in the name is a good film. But in the actual film, they don't have that bit. It's just in the trailer. It's really sad.
I know. Oh dear, some of the best examples of that are like Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
What are we?
Some kind of Suicide Squad.
the other one, I haven't seen the movie, but I'm aware of this, is Taken 2.
Oh yeah, they do that really bad.
It's like, your daughter has been taken, and your
wife's
wife's
been taken too.
she's been taken too.
Like, extra points if the name of the film has a number in it like that, and
Yes.
still managed to do it.
Oh, I think it should be a rule that it should be in every movie.
Yeah.
You just have to awkwardly shoehorn the name
It
in.
has to be as well, even if it's a really natural name. Like, even if it's just the name of a character
Yep.
or the name of some event in the world, you have
Yep.
to do it really awkwardly.
It's better if it's like a weird title. Imagine at the end of The Shawshank Redemption,
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman is like in the empty cell and they've just found the hole behind the poster, and he just went, "Wow, that truly
truly
was
was
a
a
Shawshank
Shawshank
Redemption." Yeah, that'd be great. Like at the bottom of the well, the people look up and see Bruce Wayne climbing out, and they're like, "Look, the Dark Knight rises."
But yeah, it turns out that Frankenstein's just a regular guy.
Yes.
And except for his hand, for some reason, it's later revealed that his hand is actually metal.
That is
But
my
it's not
favourite
like
bit of the whole
it's
movie.
not even like a good synthetic. It's literally just a lump of metal.
But it's a grenade.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a bomb in it. And so we see his face immediately, but he never takes off one glove, right?
Yeah.
Even in the really weird lovemaking scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's like, "What's beneath your glove?" And he pulls it off, and his hand has been painted silver.
Yeah.
And they've stuck like half a grenade shape onto the palm of his hand. And she goes something like, "Oh, it's a bomb." And he goes, "Yes, it's my hand grenade."
Oh yeah, that was good. I like that. My hand.
Favourite line in the whole movie.
But like, you know, you were saying he never takes off his gloves.
Yep.
You know, there's that bit just as they're leaving where he takes off his other glove on his other hand. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking
And
of gloves.
he drops it on the road
Yeah.
to give him an excuse to like go back and run someone over.
Yeah.
Run over that priest guy.
Because if you're the talent announcing the beginning of the second stage of the race, you would go and pick up a glove that someone dropped on the road.
So he takes off his glove and drops it on the road, and then he drives off, and then he's like, "Oh no, I forgot on my glove." And he turns around to go back and pick it up and run over this guy.
And picks up the glove in
And
the
picks
same
up the
move.
gloves at the same time. But I'm sure when I was watching that he still has a glove on each hand while he's driving. So either it was a blooper, that's more likely,
Probably.
or he wears double gloves on each hand.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically it turns out that Frankenstein, we spend this whole time thinking that he's a monster. It turns out he's not, and it turns out he hates the government.
Yeah, well, even though it's never really clear why, because he was trained by the government.
To be the best
And
driver.
presumably he's spent his entire life in like government facilities and has been like indoctrinated.
You'd
So
have
he's
thought,
like,
wouldn't you?
No, I'm gonna blow up the president.
Maybe it's because all his mates died.
And apparently, so he's been trained by the government this whole time, and
Yeah.
is presumably still handled by government agents and things.
Yeah.
And yet they never thought to check, what if his hand has a grenade in it?
Yeah, because the president never comes out of his summer home in China or whatever.
Yeah.
But for the end of the race, he's going to be on a very rickety platform,
Yeah.
and he's going to shake hands
Shake
with
hands
the
with the
winner,
winner.
a violent murderer.
Yeah.
So, yes. So he has to win the race. That's why he has this drive to win the race. There is that bit on the first stop-off where the government agents come out and, like, pull him out, and, like, Frankenstein. Something weird happened in that race.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what it was.
Oh, they go down some road. Oh yeah. So his navigator says,
Yep.
there's some place where you can kill lots of people. I don't remember what it was.
It's like an old people's home or
Or
something.
something like that. And he says, "Oh, you have to go down this diversion route, and then you'll be able to kill lots of people and get lots of points." And it turns out that actually she's just directing him into the worst rebellion ambush ever,
Yep.
which we'll talk about in a minute. But they go through this ambush and then get out of it, obviously. And then at the next stop, some like FBI guys come along and like, "Did you take that diversion on your own initiative, or did your navigator suggest it?" And he just goes, "It was on my own initiative."
Yep.
But yeah, back to the ambush, the worst
The ambush
ambush
is
ever.
terrible. It's
They
the
give him-
second worst ambush in the movie.
Oh yeah, the tunnel one is worse.
I don't know, actually, because that one was effective. The other
That's
time they try
right,
and ambush
yeah.
Frankenstein in the world's least threatening aeroplane.
Oh yeah.
But one at a time.
So I think they must have watched The Running Man and concluded that cars are defeated by slight inclines. Because they give him a little ramp.
Yeah.
And they're like, once he goes up this ramp, clearly that'll just disable his car utterly.
Yeah. And their cunning plan is to kill Frankenstein
Yeah.
and swap him with a double.
Yeah.
And then that double will kill the president when
Yes.
the double, who may or may not have any racing training, wins the race.
Yeah.
And they don't do this near the end.
Yeah, you would have thought they'd do it near the end when
Yeah.
he's basically won already, but no.
They do it
They
right
do
at
it
the
right
beginning.
at the beginning.
But, yeah, so they leap over the slight incline
Yeah.
through some fire.
Oh yeah, there's some fire there.
And isn't just the Frankenstein guy, the double, just standing in the middle of the road?
He's just standing there. Like, he clearly expected them to be completely just killed by this little tiny bit of fire and this little ramp. And he thought, oh, that'll see them off. There's no way anyone's surviving that.
So he, like, the Frankenstein double is the only guy who gets killed in that scene, isn't he?
Yes.
Because Frankenstein just kills him and then just
He
drives
drives off, yeah.
It is the most pathetic ambush in the history of ambushes. Except for the second
tunnel.
ambush.
The tunnel is surely worse. The tunnel.
It worked, though.
But it wouldn't work. You'd notice that the tunnel went through literally nothing.
I mean, we would. But we're not in the high adrenaline situation of some sort of death race. Oh dear. So the second ambush, for some reason Frankenstein knows it's coming. And he knocks her out, doesn't he?
Oh yeah,
with the pill.
yeah. Oh yeah, this with the worst aeroplane ever.
And then, must be a
It's
one-seater
basically just-
aeroplane.
It's basically like a light aircraft. It's like a little Cessna 150 or like a space age
It
equivalent.
looks vaguely futury,
Yeah.
but it looks like you could knock it out by throwing a rock at it.
It's not a military aircraft.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you like how it had one bomb underneath it?
Oh yeah,
And,
and then
you
it drops like 20 bombs.
25 bombs, yeah. Like loads of them. But he just flies around over the top of them.
And then flies into a mountain for some reason.
And there's the resistance mobile as well.
What?
There's a white car. It's like the best car in the movie. It's white. So most of the cars were based off like VWs,
Yeah.
and like Fiats and stuff.
Yeah.
This one had the like chassis of a Mustang,
Oh, nice.
and they chase for like 1
Oh,
minute,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
he
yeah.
just crashes into something.
It's like Frankenstein doesn't even sort of do anything against the plane. He just keeps driving.
He just drives
and eventually,
on the road.
Eventually, the plane just flies into a mountain.
That sequence is far too long. Oh, and during that time, the resistance leader woman sees her granddaughter like asleep in the car.
Oh
and
yeah, and
assumes that she's
concludes that
dead.
she must be dead. Yeah.
Yep. Which comes into play later on.
We haven't talked about the ending yet.
No. I feel like we must have missed lots of stuff out.
Yeah.
They stop at random points, don't they? They stop twice during the movie.
Yeah.
Like for a stopover. There's a bit. They're all having like a table massage.
Yeah.
And Stallone goes and has a chat. Joe the Turbo.
Mr. the Turbo.
Mr. I hate being second best, the Turbo.
Yeah.
Goes over to Frankenstein's navigator and starts having a chat with her. So Frankenstein then goes and talks to Joe's navigator.
Yeah.
And then Joe suddenly flies into a rage, runs over to the woman, just as Frankenstein's walking over. He's like, "What did he say? What did he say?" And then he punches her in the face. Because Frankenstein just says, like, "Tell Joe we were talking about something."
Yeah.
And then Joe comes over and she's like, "He just said this." Oh, we haven't talked about the girl that comes to see Frankenstein in the basement.
Oh yeah.
That's very
He
odd.
later kills.
Yeah, she's like, "Mr. Frankenstein, I'm your biggest fan, and I just wanted it to mean something." He's like, "What?" He's like, "You'll see."
How did she even get in that building?
And how did she know he'd be in the basement? What was he even doing in the basement? Why does he have a cape, Will?
But then later on, that woman is just in the middle of the road with like a bunch of other people, all wearing Frankenstein shirts.
Which is just a black
It's
shirt
just
with a white
giant
F.
on it.
Worst branding ever.
And she just stands there and lets him run
Yeah.
run her over.
Yeah. Which he does.
He does, yeah.
Because we have Frankenstein as this kind of... He does kill people, but he doesn't really...
It's like he's not really into it, supposedly.
There's that great scene. It's like the second killing. There's a hospital,
Oh.
and all the nurses are wheeling the elderly out into the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And like the navigator goes, "What's going on?" And he's like, "It's euthanasia day."
Yeah.
None of the old people seem to be like they're not like they're there
They're not
against their
fussed
will.
by it. Yeah. There's like they probably requested it, you know.
Yeah.
Like they don't seem bothered by it. They're like,
they
yes,
also
finally.
They line them up across the road, so he can only hit like
only
2
hit
max.
so many. Yeah.
But Frankenstein, instead of hitting all these poor old people, he pulls a turn and kills all the nurses and doctors. And there's this brilliant bit where the camera is like, the car goes behind like some shrubbery, and the nurses just fly up into the air.
Yeah. Some of the bits, some of them, not that bit,
Yeah.
but there's other bits where I don't think it would kill you, what they do. Like, you know the bit where, who is it who kills the pit crew? Is it the Hun?
No, that's Joe the Turbo.
Joe the Turbo kills his pit crew.
Yeah.
He just, like, they're sitting at the starting line, and he just reverses back into them.
Feet
But they're
behind
like
him.
6 feet behind him, so there's no way he's going that fast when he hits them. I don't think that would kill you.
No, it wouldn't. So yeah, Frankenstein's kind of this benevolent guy. He's not benevolent. He's not.
But it's like, all the others seem to kind of be like, yeah, you're gonna kill some people.
Yeah.
Whereas Frankenstein's just like, yes, I want to win, and so I need to kill people, but I don't enjoy it, you know. I'm a good guy.
He's also very British, apparently. That's the exact Frankenstein voice there, by Will. So, should we just talk about the ending?
Okay, the ending.
Because, I mean, Will.
Shall we just say what happens at the end?
So, actually, the ending I quite liked. It's
Right.
then the scene after the ending that just...
That would be the ending.
The very ending.
The scene after the ending is still the ending.
Alright, so, okay, before we can get to the ending, we have to explain how Frankenstein loses his bomb hands.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, hang on, how does Calamity Jane die? Because we've done the Hun's death and the hero's death.
How does she die?
Because her navigator gets run down,
Yeah.
but she survives that day, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Damn it! What happened to Calamity Jane?
Google to the rescue.
The unofficial third member of our podcast.
Death. Race 2000. I guess we got the plot
To Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Oh yes, she drives over that landmine.
Oh yeah, very slowly.
I can't remember how they lure her there though.
Don't they have like some guy on a motorbike and like he drives off in that direction, doesn't
They
he?
have 2 motorcyclists. They must be the guys from The Running Man. Kind of shuffle you along to get to The Running Man.
Yeah.
It's that level of motorbike riding.
Well, they lure her towards some landline.
Landline. Yep.
And then she kills the motorcycle guy.
And stops right before the
Stops
landmine.
right at the landmine. Notices a bunch of shot up cars around her.
Yep.
For some reason is spooked by that.
The cars, they tied here. And then she does like a 5
And then she does
point
like a
turn.
20-point turn.
And
And then
eventually...
eventually runs over the landmine.
Yeah, she took a sweet time, but she got there eventually. So anyway, somehow Joe and Frankenstein are on like the same, like neck and neck, aren't
Yeah.
they? And Joe is ramming Frankenstein's car. And by ramming, I mean there's light contact.
Gently caressing.
And Joe doesn't just pull out his machine gun that he apparently has, because he just
Oh,
put that
yeah.
in his car, didn't he? He doesn't use the massive knife on the front of his car.
Or the machine guns on the front of his
Or
car.
the machine guns. He just kind of gently taps the side of the car. And while they're doing it, Frankenstein's navigator, who I actually don't know the name of, did she have a name?
No, I don't remember her name, if she had one.
She's like, Frankenstein, give me your hand. And she just unscrews his grenade hand and just pops it in the car with Joe the Turbo.
And then his navigator's like, Joe, there's a grenade over here. But he's like, shut up!
He really hates his
He
navigator.
really hates his navigator.
And she never does anything wrong, really,
No,
does she?
not really.
She seems like a
She's
reasonable
a bit
navigator.
overbearing. But apart from that, that's just like slightly annoying. It's not like why you reason to just punch her in the face. Or just ignore her when she's saying, there's a grenade right here, they're gonna die.
He's like, I'm really busy here, shut up.
Although to be fair, she could have just used her own initiative to just throw
Pick up the
car.
grenade.
Like,
It
why
lands
does she,
in her
why
lap.
does she have to wait to be told by Joe to do that?
Oh dear, so yes, so the car, Joe the Turbo explodes.
Yeah.
He's my favourite character. They kept writing ways, like the fishing guy who's like, oh, you're Mr. Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And there's the guy on
It's the guy on the ladder.
Oh, yes!
He's putting up a giant sign.
A Franken
A
sign.
Franken sign. It's like, welcome to whatever city it is.
Mr.
Mr.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. And then Joe, Mr. the Turbo, comes along and he's just enraged that people dare support this other guy.
The most popular racer.
Knocks the guy off his ladder. And then he looks at his mate, doesn't he?
Who was at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah. And says, shall I kill this guy? And his mate just gives the most enthusiastic nodding.
He does like a big thumbs down, doesn't he?
He's like, yeah,
like
yeah,
it's a
get
gladiatorial
him.
battle. And I was like, okay, he's going to die
I
as well.
assumed he was going to get both of them, but
But he
no, he
didn't.
doesn't. He only gets the guy who was actually putting up the sign, even though his mate was also helping him
He
put up the
was.
sign. And then just drives off.
So there's that, and then in the first stopover, there's like a government guy who's like, okay, we're going to ignore that resistance broadcast.
Yeah.
We're going to tell everyone that all the things that are happening is the French.
Oh yeah.
And then Joe the Turbo is like, we should all have protection. And the guy's like, look, sir, I know you're the second most popular racer here, but that doesn't mean you have any sway over me. And then Joe picks up his cream dessert
yeah,
and throws it at him.
Oh, that's going to be one of my favourite scenes. He throws his dessert.
Yeah.
And he has some witty one-liner as well, doesn't he, when he does that? But I don't remember what it was.
Oh, he does. I can't think what it was either. But I just love how they were desperate to just rile this guy up as much as possible.
We're going to find...
Just do a search for Joe, and then we'll get the Joe ones.
He says to his navigator, some people might think you're cute, but me, I think you're one very large baked potato.
But in a really angry, vicious way.
Oh, this is the one.
Go on.
So the guy says, you know, Mr. the Turbo, as a representative of Mr. President's government, I happen to hold the power of life and death. And then Machine Gun Joe goes, yeah, well, I happen to hold the clam sauce. And then just throws it at the guy.
And
So
that's
basically the FBI guy is saying, I could have you killed. And then Joe goes, well, I'm going to throw my dessert at you.
and that's cut together with the really tense scene of Frankenstein talking to the FBI guys, and they like suspect him,
yeah.
and Frankenstein suspects his navigator might be part of the resistance. You know, like, oh, is he gonna tell them? And then you just cut back, and Sylvester Stallone's throwing cream at people. Oh, I want to watch this movie again. So anyway,
The ending.
He got off topic.
Yeah.
So Frankenstein doesn't have his machine gun hand.
He doesn't have his hand grenades.
His hand grenade anymore. So what happens is a great. So basically, Frankenstein wins by default.
Yeah,
All the
he's
murders-
the only one left.
All the
alive.
murders he did were for nothing. And then a complicated, convoluted series of events happen, which actually I quite liked. So Frankenstein pulls up to the finish
President
line.
on his very rickety podium.
Yeah. Frankenstein gets out of his car and walks up the stairs to shake hands with Mr. President. And in his hand he flicks out the smallest knife I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Which is like it's smaller than his finger.
Yeah.
And as he's climbing the steps, the resistance leader pushes herself to the front of the crowd, pulls a revolver, and shoots Frankenstein just as he's reaching. Mr. President doesn't even go for a handshake, he goes for a hug.
He does, yeah.
So that plan would have failed anyway. And just as Frankenstein is like a step away from Mr. President, Mrs. Resistance shoots Frankenstein and he falls to the floor. Immediately they pull his mask off for some reason, this poor deformed man.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's the granddaughter. And the grandmother has just shot her own granddaughter because the Resistance can't communicate properly.
Yeah.
Frankenstein then sits up in the car, presumably naked.
I guess he must be.
Or he's just
He's
wearing her
her
clothes. But anyway, he sits up in the car, revs the engine, and just crashes in, like drives into the underneath of the rickety stage. Mr. President falls less than like 4 feet,
Yeah.
and
he's
is killed.
instantly.
And I was like, oh no, the woman has died for her resistance, and the grandmother has to live with the fact that she's killed her.
No, she's perfectly fine.
Then in the next scene,
They're getting married.
the next scene was the dumbest scene in the entire movie.
I don't know about that.
Well, actually, that's cool. That's a big shout,
That's
isn't
a big accusation.
it? Okay, well, It's the most jarring scene because Frankenstein has married his navigator.
Yeah.
The mother is there as
Yeah.
well. No, the grandmother even. The
Who's now
resistance.
her position in the government is like to put down other resistance people.
She puts down anyone that resists the new
The
regime.
new regime, yeah.
So-
We're supposed to like support this. We're supposed to be happy about this.
Yep.
That one regime which may or may not have actually been that tyrannical
Yep.
is being replaced by one that probably
Definitely
is.
Also, just they still call him Mr. Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Even though he's not Frankenstein, he must have another name, surely.
No, he's just Mr. Frankenstein.
Does that make her Mrs.
I
Frankenstein?
guess it would.
But he's Mr. President Frankenstein now. He has become the new president, presumably not by an election.
Nope.
He's-
Because he killed the old one. That's how it works. When you
That's how
kill
it
the
should
president, he does say he's going to reinstitute democratic elections.
Yeah.
So he took
Eventually.
advantage of the fact that there wasn't a democratic election to become president.
Yeah. Because he kills the president.
Yeah.
And everyone just starts cheering Frankenstein. This president
I
who
reckon it must be that if you kill the president, you become the president. And anyway, the very last bit, there's a very
yes.
enthusiastic TV presenter.
Yep.
And so Frankenstein says he's going to abolish the
death race.
transcontinental death race of doom or whatever it's called.
Yep.
And so the very enthusiastic presenter's like, "You can't do that, it's an American tradition. There's tantamount to treason, you see." As he stands right in front of the car of a man whose entire career is based on running people over.
It's like, you can't do this, Mr. Frankenstein. The American people love watching people
As
murdered.
Frankenstein is monologuing about how immoral it is to hold a race with the objective of running people over,
Yep.
he runs over that guy.
And everyone
Everyone's
claps.
cheering, and he drives off happily into the sunset with his new wife.
Even the really dry commentator is there.
Yeah.
And he's like the guy he's worked with for years. Has been run over in front of him.
And he's like cheering and
He
clapping.
puts up no resistance. So there is a sequel to this.
Yes,
Called
Death
Death
Race
Race.
2050.
I like to think that Mr. Frankenstein is the new tyrannical president,
Yeah,
and that his wife and him have ruled with an iron fist.
that
Or
would
a
seem
hand
to be
grenade fist.
consistent with what we've seen. Do you remember if at the end he has like a replacement arm, or does he just
Oh.
have a stub?
Damn it. I mean, I don't think they had the budget to actually do any prosthetics. It's weird, though. He hadn't been in any crashes or accidents.
But then he still has a hand
But
grenade.
someone must have cut his hand off and put a grenade. That means he never even went to Switzerland. Because I assumed that... Because when they started blaming the French and their European allies
Yeah.
for disrupting our beautiful race and the telephone system...
Yeah,
and the economy as
and
well.
the economy. Yeah.
The economy were like the French who destroyed our economy and ruined our telephone system.
That was really random.
Yeah, I thought, oh, maybe he's been to the Swiss doctors and they've turned him to the
Yeah.
resistance against America. But no, he was an American through and through. Do you think this was supposed to be a comedy? Or do you think they were trying to take it seriously?
It's hard to tell with these sorts of things. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell.
Because apparently the original treatment was incredibly serious. And everyone was like, no, you can't do this seriously. And then they made the script a comedy, but then cut out loads of the funny scenes.
Hmm.
They didn't say what any of them were. Clearly the death race scene got the cut. Apparently they filmed the scene right at the beginning where they're all lined up
Hmm.
on a racetrack. They just filmed that at a racetrack during a break between races.
But there's a guy in the audience with a Nazi, like a swastika
There
flag.
is. That never really came to anything though, did it?
No.
I don't know what I was expecting, but the driver would actually do some Nazi thing.
Yeah.
I think they did that just so they could have a swastika in the first couple of minutes, and you'd be like,
I'd be, like, shocked
dystopia.
into like, oh yes,
Wow,
swastikas.
The future has gone to pass. Have you got anything to say about the incredible special effects?
We've talked about how naff the cars are,
Yep.
and how naff the blood effects are.
Yep. Okay, here's a fun fact for you. Calamity Dick.
Great start.
It was a calamity, that sentence. Calamity Jane couldn't drive. They hired an actress for the movie Death Race.
Who couldn't drive?
Yep.
Amazing.
Well, you might not believe this, Will,
Oh god.
but the cameras were undercranked to make the cars look like they were going faster.
I mean, that's really, you can really tell that.
That's the other thing about
really,
this.
You can, like, you're just watching it and you can just, you can sped up.
All of the driving stuff they do, none of it's interesting.
No,
it's just a car.
It's just slightly faster than you might otherwise expect.
Yeah, and then the car will just like drive around a corner, and all of the intense racing stuff is just two cars driving around a corner. The only good driving bit is when the plane is bombing him.
Yeah.
And all the bombs go off either side of the road as he drives between them.
Yeah.
What else have I got? No, not much. I found this and I couldn't find any more information on this. But apparently the cars didn't run most of the time, so they had to push them downhill. Also, the director played that doctor who woke up Frankenstein at the exact second.
Yeah. Apparently, it's one of Quentin Tarantino's favourite films.
Really?
Yep.
That's amazing. How good would it have been if Kill Bill had just been the bride driving around in a series of wacky cars trying to run Bill over? Wow, she truly did kill Bill. Dear, I'm gonna skim my notes. So normally for movies, I write down notable effects and things that look good.
There's nothing.
But in this one, I just wrote down
notable effects.
I just wrote down all the nonsense. I think we've covered most of it. Oh, did you enjoy the terrible background on that shot of the raceway? You've got the real crowd, and then you've got like you know where they have a matte painting, but this one looked like it had been drawn with coloured pencils.
I didn't notice that.
It was the worst one I've ever
me.
seen. Oh, I liked how the Resistance's operation was called Operation Anti-Race.
Oh yeah, like they didn't give it like some fancy name.
Or not a code
Like
name.
you've got to like look at like military names like Operation Sea Lion, Operation Barbarossa. No, let's just call it Operation Anti-Race.
Yeah. Oh, I've got the doctor murdering. Oh, did you? I'd forgotten this. You know the first man to get stabbed by Joe's car?
Yeah.
The woman who's everyone's friend
Oh yeah.
gets his wife on the TV show and she wins an apartment or something?
She does. Apparently that's like a tradition at every race that the widow, I guess like the closest relative of the first victim, wins a fancy apartment and like a fancy car and things.
So if you're going to do the suicide thing, then you want to do
You would do that, and you then if you're like really old and geriatric, and you're like, I don't have long to live, and my wife or my children, I want to provide for my children. You just like there.
I'm just imagining you like in a hospital bed, surrounded by your whole family, and you're like, I'm getting rather old. I must provide for my family.
Wheel me to the start of the death race and push me in front of the car.
I'm doing this for you, my grandchildren. Enjoy the apartment.
And the fancy. I think you get a car as well.
Yeah. I'd forgotten.
Oh no, it's a TV. They get an apartment and a TV.
A TV to watch the rest of the death race on. The race that
killed her husband.
Yep. Oh, what else have I got here? Written down here, drain men.
We talked about the drain men.
I've written Stallone throws cream at someone.
I think these notes just sum up the movie very well. If somebody hadn't seen this film and they're just reading your notes, Stallone throws cream at someone.
And directly under that I've got, it was the French exclamation mark. I've got worst fight ever. What was that? Oh yes, Frankenstein and Stallone have a punch up, don't they? In the garage.
Oh yeah, they do.
Because
Stallone was assaulting his navigator.
Yeah.
And then Frankenstein comes in, and Stallone says, "I caught your navigator trying to sabotage your car and apprehended her."
Yeah, the car that she rides in.
I'm such a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just thinking back over the entire film knowing that his hand was a bomb. He was punching Stallone in the face with his bomb hand. He was caressing that woman
He
with
was.
his bomb hand.
They had sex. How did she not notice this whole time?
His hand had a weird lump in it and was made of metal.
Made of metal.
Oh, that's a horrible thought. That fight was awful, though. And it ends with Frankenstein and he pushes Joe's head right next to the terrible
That's
knife.
the bit where I started really thinking, God, that knife just looks terrible.
Yeah.
It's clearly just a painted piece of wood. Like, they didn't even make an effort to make it look sharp.
No.
It's just really dull.
Just a bit of wood.
Ugh.
Joe kills pit crew, calls navigator potato. Yeah, that's about it. These notes are just the best.
The best.
I might tweet these actually
Right.
because I wrote them down half not paying attention, and yeah, it's just come out as a nonsense. But like the movie.
Like the movie itself, yeah. Right.
Do you want to discuss the deeper themes?
No.
Okay.
A lot of websites try and make it about like political commentary and things.
How society will go downhill, much like The Running Man. But
It's just not, is it?
yeah, all right. In the tradition of The Running Man, if you're a contestant in the death race,
Oh yeah.
what's your name? What do you
God.
drive?
That's tricky. That's not as easy as the running
No,
man.
it's
Because the
not.
running man, you can just go for like practicality or something.
Yeah. Well, then you've got to kill pedestrians.
That's true.
You also gonna have a terrible name.
I mean, I'm tempted to go with something like space related,
Yeah.
and then my car would just look like a spaceship or something.
Just the space shuttle.
Yeah.
And then who would you be?
Ugh, the Starman, I don't know. Rocket Man.
That'll do, yeah. I've got a tough one because I've already got another Joe to compete with.
Yeah.
Would you be Mr. Starman?
Mr. Starman, yeah.
Yep.
Mr. the Starman. Oh no, Major Tom. That would be my
Yes!
name.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I like the idea of just doing the same as I did in The Running Man. And just being like, my car is a horse.
Oh, yeah.
And it has a massive lance out the front of it. And I can just lance people.
You could have the same name and everything. You could be this. If it is the same universe as the Running Man,
Yeah.
the same guy.
Good. Just my transferable skills. I could be Mr. the Knight. I don't know.
Mr.
That's a terrible name. The
The Impaler, I think, was
the
your-
Lightning Knight.
The
There you are.
Lightning Knight.
Because I'm so fast. I like how Joe gets Machine Gun Joe and Joe the Turbo.
He does. Yeah.
He gets two.
He gets two. Best effect ones.
Well, what, in your opinion, was the best effect? Okay, let's just say the best effect is the one that brought you the most joy.
Oh, that's gotta be the fake tunnel. I watched that scene like 3 or 4 times. I kept, because I couldn't like believe. I thought I must be missing something. There's gotta be something else going on. But no, I don't think I was.
No, I didn't get anything else. Any deep social commentary.
That's my best effects.
Yeah. Alright, mine is the one that made me laugh the most was the hand grenade.
Yeah.
And he just pulls his glove off and she's like, oh, it's a bomb!
It's my hand grenade.
It's a toss up between that and the flying nurses.
It's toss up between the tunnel
Yep.
and the throwing this dessert in that guy's face.
I don't think that was much of an effect. I think they just did that for real, Will.
Alright, worst effects.
They can't be a... Probably, I think this is one of those rare occasions where the best effect is the worst
The
effect.
best effect is the worst effect, yeah.
Someone's head got run over. That one probably was the best effect in the movie.
Yeah, that guy's the navigator's head.
Oh no, it wasn't him because he had his head under the car. They'd run over
Yeah,
his
yeah.
body. There's someone whose head got like smashed to pieces. The worst effect was probably the guy that Machine Gun Joe killed in the river, and he's just lying under the car,
Yeah.
and then the wheels spin,
Yeah.
and then just red sprays everywhere.
Or when the people in the manhole
Yeah.
just explodes.
I don't understand it well.
Ugh.
The worst effect was that guy's disguise pretending to be the mother.
Yeah, okay.
He just had a big hat on.
And, like, it's not like he was even like, he wasn't sort of like a small framed guy
No.
either. He was quite a big guy.
He was.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, that'll do. Jennifer Lawrence?
The best section.
She could
The
be...
only way to make this film actually good.
She should be the person who's friends with everyone. My good friend, Mr. Frankenstein.
Does she die at the end?
No, she lives. All the commentators live except for Junior.
Except for the really enthusiastic one, yeah. I mean, I'm reluctant to go with the first one that we come up with, but actually that's a good idea.
It will give me some more suggestions. She could be that navigator
She could be
Stallone
the president.
punches. She could be the president.
No, he dies, doesn't he?
Well, he falls like 4 feet.
I'm not convinced again. I don't think that would kill you.
I reckon it's all a ruse. I reckon FBI swarmed in, pulled the president's body away, pulled Frankenstein away. And I reckon that the Frankenstein Institute is like a clone situation.
Yeah.
So they just got a clone of Frankenstein to be the new president. And
That's
the
like
real
Illuminati
president.
stuff.
Yeah, the real president is like in the background. So yeah, but then you'd have to convince the lady navigator that it was the real Frankenstein. It would just kill her as well.
Yeah.
But the resistance lady was there as well. Oh no, it's too many holes in my theory. Well,
That could be Jenna, could be her as well.
Mrs. Resistance.
Mrs. Resistance lady.
Yep. What does Mrs. Resistance do? She shoots her own granddaughter.
She does, and then gives some orders and gets ignored. And gives the TV speech.
She does give the TV speech. The least inspiring speech. It's so inspiring I don't remember any of it.
This is a difficult one, actually.
It is.
Because there's lots of possibilities.
But you can. Remember, we can flip the genders.
But gender flipping is allowed.
Yeah. So she could be Machine Gun Joe. She could be Machine Gun Jen if you want.
But he dies.
Yeah, that's true. All of them
All
die. All the drivers except Frankenstein. Frankenstein's a terrible character. He's very boring.
Yes.
Except for his hand grenade.
Oh, she could be the person who's helping that guy put up the sign.
Yes.
Who doesn't die.
Yeah.
I think we'll go with the person who's friends with everyone.
Yeah. I think she's the best character
Yeah.
for that. There's all those girls with the F's on their chest who watch that other girl die.
Oh yeah, let's like plant her in the middle of the road.
She could be that kid who we didn't talk about, who is just playing with a tyre
Oh,
and
yeah.
a stick in the middle of the road in the highly advanced future of the year 2000
Yeah.
instead of watching
Do
television.
you think people would realise the vase was in their area
Yeah.
and then they'd just stay inside for that day?
Wouldn't go outside for 3 days.
Yeah.
But it's not like they went on interstates. They were always
They
on
were on,
small
back
roads.
and things.
Yeah.
And the progress was tracked like on the TV and things.
On the very, very bad map.
Very bad map, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, we'll go with the lady who's friends with everyone.
Okay,
That's
yes. Or she could be the
my
grieving
choice.
widow of that engineer guy who gets an apartment.
No, because then she's married to someone else.
And she doesn't. Well, she's now available. No, I think you're right. The lady who's friends with everyone.
The lady who's friends with everyone.
All right.
Okay.
What would we do next? Leaderboards.
Leaderboards.
Okay, the only competition this film has, in my opinion, is the Running
So
Man.
basically we just have to decide, is it...
Is it better than the Running Man?
So we talked about this. We're
Yes.
going to have 2 leaderboards.
Alright, yeah, let's do that.
One for like
Films
serious
that we
films.
seriously care about.
And one for films that are so bad they're good.
Yes.
So far, the only one on that one is really The Running Man.
Yes.
So really, it's between this and The Running Man.
we're pulling it off the standard leaderboards
Yeah.
and giving it its own glorious leaderboard.
It's leaderboard.
The leaderboard of nonsense.
Nonsense leaderboard. Where we're basically just judging how good of a nonsense they are.
So is it the one that entertained you the most then?
Yes, it's
By
going
its
to be whichever one is
ridiculousness?
just the more entertainingly ridiculous. I'm putting the... Oh, actually, it's tough.
Okay, so the Running Man has Schwarzenegger going for it, and all
Yeah.
his brilliant one-liners.
Yeah. This one has a cardboard cut out of a tunnel. And Sylvester Stallone throwing dessert in someone's face.
Yeah, but then the Running Man has Dynamo and his little car.
Yeah, it does.
If you could swap any 2 characters, if you had to put Dynamo in the Death
Dynamo.
Race, who would you swap in?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Who would you have up against Arnold in his car?
I think the greatest opportunity for a pun for
Yeah.
an Arnold Schwarzenegger one-liner
Yeah.
comes from the Hun.
Yes.
So let's swap those 2.
I want to put Machine Gun Joe in, just because I want Arnold Schwarzenegger to face
Yes.
Sylvester Stallone. And because he'd have, you know that he has like 4 machine guns and he'd never use them.
I think...
Also, he has a name you can imagine someone saying on the Running Man TV show.
yeah.
He's like, I'd like Machine Gun Joe, please.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dynamo.
Dynamo.
I think it's just try that together.
better or worse than The Running Man?
I'm going to put it above The Running Man.
You are?
The Running Man is good, but I think it takes itself too seriously. But then this doesn't take itself seriously.
No.
Stallone throws cream in someone's face.
I'm tempted to agree with you, actually. I'm going to put it above The Running Man.
Because I think with The Running Man, they were aiming for like a predator, where the predator like kills everyone individually.
Yeah.
Like they wanted Arnie to come in and take everyone out, and then the Resistance would just storm in at the end, and the day would be saved. But the Resistance did nothing in The Running Man.
No.
The Death Race has the better resistance. If they were resisting each other in some kind of resistance
The Death Race
competition.
Resistance would win.
Yep. Even though they have a fractured leadership.
Nobody pays attention to what anyone else is doing.
I feel like for this one, we should just have one leaderboard. And then we should argue it out. Like, which one is the most nonsense?
What do you mean?
So instead of having one each,
Yeah.
we just have one.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
And then we have to agree.
Well, I mean, we've agreed on this one automatically, so...
Yeah, but I mean, like, for future.
Yeah.
Just because with good films, it can be down to personal opinion.
This one is more, which is more ridiculous.
It'll also be way more fun to argue.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Dynamo is more ridiculous than a man whose hand is a grenade.
He is, though.
He really is.
Alright. Outro?
Yeah, we did it. This might be our most streamlined episode.
It might, yeah.
We normally go for ages. We're going to go see Blade Runner. So.
Yeah, so we're kind of...
Yeah, we're done with
We're
this.
done with this shit. Right. Thank you for listening to Practically Effective. Oh, what do I say?
You say, thank you for listening to Practically Effective. And then you just say... You don't have like a stock standard thing that I say. You just say you can email us on. You can us on. You can find us. Find us on the internet, damn it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Practically Effective. You can email us at practicallyeffective@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at practicallyfx, and we also have Facebook. You can find our podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, and also on the YouTube.
Yeah, please do, because it's waned a bit recently.
Okay, bye.